Hi there, I'm Lauren Garrett, founder and queen bee of Native American Career Center at nativeamericancareercenter.com. Today I'm going to be talking about prayer ties, so let's get started. So just a quick disclaimer, today I am going to be using tobacco in my prayer tie making. I am above age in the United States, meaning I'm over the age of 18, and so I'm considered a legal adult and I'm able to buy and use tobacco legally. Anybody who's watching this video who might not be of age is advised to please use a different herb. You can also use different herbs if you don't want to use tobacco and you are of age. Some great herbs are rosemary, sage, lavender, rose petals, herbs like chaparral, deer's tongue, even sweetgrass. Use something that is congruent with your values and what calls to you. And since I am of age and I do practice the traditional Native American religion, I will be using tobacco. What is a prayer tie? In short, it looks something like this. Not all prayer ties will look exactly like this. Some are bigger. This is a pretty small one. The squares that I use to tie my cloth are that size, and my finger is almost exactly 3 inches or like 7 centimeters. So you can see from the size comparison that this is like a 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch or 6 centimeter by 6 centimeter square of cloth. And I am using red cloth because red is said to be the color that is most visible by spirits. But I've also seen prayer ties in many different colors. Sometimes prayer ties are made for a specific individual, and maybe that person's favorite color is purple, for example, or blue. And also invoking whatever meaning lies in the color of the fabric to the individual who is doing the prayer. So, in the name of prayer ties, one of the important things is that it is tied. And so you can see that this one I've done is on a continuous string that is attached to some synthetic sinew. And prayer tie chains can be, there could just be one, there could be many prayer ties. The longest prayer tie chain I've done was 256 when I went out for a religious ceremony at Bear Butte, South Dakota. These prayer ties can be done for any specific or even non-specific prayer. Generally, I like to do prayer ties in order to ground myself and to feel closer to spirit and the creator. Folks may tie prayer ties because someone they know is ill or not feeling well, or they may want to do it for a cause. For example, if there's any sort of strife or hardship that's being experienced in the world, someone could sit down and tie prayer ties with the intention of sending healing and love to the people who may be having a really hard time. Other folks tie prayer ties because they are set on some sort of mission. For example, the 256 prayer ties were for what's called in the Lakota language a hamblecha, or crying for a vision. And those prayer ties were meant to create a spiritual, physical boundary in the crying for the vision. That also brings up an important point in prayer ties, in that it is a physical manifestation of a prayer. And so when looking at this or seeing people who have prayer tie bundles, they can know that whoever created the prayer tie was in a prayerful state, and that the items are then coming from a place of spirituality. It is a very spiritual practice to tie a prayer tie. So what do you need in order to make prayer ties? So you need cloth, and square cloth is what I use. And I have like a stack of like pre-cut cloth just because I never know when I'm going to feel inspired to cut and tie prayer ties, and so I like to just have cloth available. The other thing that you'll need is some sort of string to tie your prayer ties. As I had said, this is synthetic sinew. You could use real sinew if you like. I've also seen prayer ties done with embroidery floss, yarn. I've even seen them done with dental floss and like thread. Whatever it is that you have on hand that is going to be able to tie your prayer ties is perfectly fine. And then the other thing that I mentioned earlier was I am using tobacco. And just to heed this warning here, tobacco does contain nicotine, and nicotine is known to be an addictive substance. And so just to keep that in mind, once again, reminding those of you who are not of age that you can use other herbs such as rosemary, sage, lavender, chaparral, deer's tongue, sweetgrass, and so on. The last thing I want to cover before actually tying prayer ties is coming into a grounded and spiritual space before doing so. There are many different ways of achieving this. One of those ways can be to just be in quiet meditation, perhaps taking like a short and slow walk in nature or outside, or if you can't go outside, to just find a place that's quiet in your home or dwelling place and just ground into the experience of what it means to pray, and that this is one type of prayer in a world of many different types of prayer. And now we will begin with tying for the prayers. So this first one, besides my demonstration tie, I'm taking the square of cloth into my hand and really acknowledging the fact that this is a special and ancient tradition. And I am so grateful to be here today to share it with you. And what I will do is I have my square and I have my tobacco for me, or herbs for anyone who is not using tobacco or underage. And I've got a pinch of it here. And I very carefully place that pinch of tobacco into the middle of the square. And what I do is I go corner to corner. I hold that in the center. I bring up another corner and it kind of folds, and I pinch those two folds, and I bring up the next corner, and it kind of makes like a little envelope or pouch, and you can see that there's now a little bundle of herbs. And I take my string, I loop it around like so. So I've got just a loop. I pull the part of the string that's still attached to the spool through, and I put the prayer tie bundle in that circle that's been made, and then pull. And you can pull from both directions. Make sure it's nice and tight, and there it is. I'm going to take another square and again, just acknowledging that I'm so grateful to be able to share this very ancient tradition with you today. And I want to put into this prayer my intention that whoever you are, wherever you are watching this video today, that if you are feeling any sort of doubt, if you're feeling any sort of instability or uncertainty or anything like that, that you are brought to a place that has grounding, that feels stable and feels safe. And so that is the intention behind my next prayer. So again, placing the tobacco inside or your herbs if you're not of age or not using tobacco. Corner to corner, another corner up, another corner up. There's your bundle. Oops. Making a loop with your string, pulling the remainder of the string through that loop. There we go. Putting in your bundle and then pull. Sometimes they get tangled up on each other, and sometimes that's just how it goes. That's okay. The intention and the care that is done behind all of this is what matters. Right, I'm going to demonstrate another prayer. So again, our square of fabric, placing it in the hand and setting our intention. I am hoping that those of you watching this video will feel like you've learned something that helps you feel more connected to whatever it is that brings you to spirit and helps you feel grounded and a sense of spacious love and care. So again, I've got my square in my hand. I have my pinch of my herbs, making sure it's securely placed in the middle of my square, and going corner to corner. And sometimes you have to tuck the herbs in a little bit more, and that's okay. There's a little piece. Okay, so I'm doing my third corner with the little flaps that are made, and pinch those closed. And then there is that fourth corner. Bringing that up, pinching it together, and then there's your bundle. Taking our string and making a loop, pulling the remainder of that string through the loop, and now I've got a new circle. Putting the prayer tie in that circle and pull. And you can pull on both sides. Now what I want to show here is it's not quite pulled tight. And you can do that, you can help it along by pulling it. And then now you can see it's got a nice secure tie right there. It's not exactly a knot. People who are really familiar with different types of knots might call that a specific kind of knot. I don't know what the terminology is for that. And that is how you can tie the prayer ties on a continuous string. So for the purposes of today's demonstration, I have 4 prayer ties, and some holy people I've worked with have said 1 prayer tie is enough because all of your intention and goodwill is in that one. And then I've had others encourage me to tie many prayer ties, for example, going out to Vision Quest and having them say, you know, you want to be well protected, you want to tie them in multiples of 4, 7, 8, etc. So it really depends on the holy person you're working with, as well as your own intuition about how many prayer ties you want to tie. Another aspect is, what do you do with the prayer ties once they are made? And so there are many different things that you could do with the prayer ties once they're made. A few examples. One is you could take the longer ends of your prayer ties and tie them into a plant in a window. You could also tie them to a bush or tree outside and honor and give gratitude to those beings for being there to put your prayer ties in. Different holy people have different suggestions for the signifiers for which direction you tie your prayer ties in, whether they're indoors or outdoors, and also like the nature of the plant that you're tying your prayer ties into, and so on. All right, and that wraps up today's video on the basics of prayer ties. I'm Lauren Garrett, founder and queen bee of Native American Career Center at nativeamericancareercenter.com. If you have any questions, you can always send me an email at nativeamericancareercenter@gmail.com. Come see what the buzz is about at nativeamericancareercenter.com.